Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. I hope everyone is doing great today. My name is Valentina Kova. I'm the Communications Manager here at Ontario One Call. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for our second stakeholder consultation webinar. We have a packed agenda today. It will include a presentation on the new cost recovery approach, and it will be followed by a live Q&A session. While we wait a couple more minutes to allow people to join us, I want to remind everybody that we are recording this webinar and we will be posting it on our YouTube channel and our website in the next couple of days. So you will be able to refer to this recording in the future days. Also, you are welcome to send us your questions at any point during this presentation using the Q&A button that you find at the top of your screen. We will address questions at the end of the presentation, but as I said, you can put them in the QA function at any point. If we get more questions than time allow, or if they're very specific and scenario based, please feel free to get in touch with our team at consultations@ontarioonecall.ca. We will get back to you. A couple more details about the consultations. This consultation period will close on October 10th. You are welcome to submit your feedback until that date via the online form on our website. I'm going to put the link in the Q&A right now, and I'll publish it so everyone can use the link to refer to that web page and use the form to submit your feedback. And without further ado, I would like to welcome our presenter, Jean Le Pen, our Chief Strategy Officer at Ontario One Call. Good afternoon, Jean.
Good afternoon, Valentina. Thank you. And thanks to all the good folks who have put this into their calendar for today. I know it's maybe not the conversation you want to be having on a sunny Thursday afternoon, but it is important for us as a new public safety administrative authority to engage with stakeholders and kind of walk through some of the things that are going on with the organization and talk to you about our fee structure on a go-forward basis. So I appreciate that you're finding the time to spend an hour with us. I do want to try to quickly go through this presentation. I know, excuse me, I know that presentations aren't the funnest thing in the world, but I'd like to walk you through a bunch of slides and then try to get into a conversation and answer your questions. And some of my colleagues are here that will assist me in that work. But for the time being, I'll walk you through a few slides and hopefully provide you with some context on why we're having this conversation and what we intend to do on a go-forward basis. So thank you for finding the time. We're clearly consulting on cost recovery fees of the organization. I know it's not unlike many of the AAs have to have conversations with their stakeholders about fees. We're doing it because we're transforming and we are becoming a regulator. I'm sorry. We used to be much more of an association, I would say, of members, but we now have carriage and responsibility for the entirety of the sector. And that means conversations and work related to UIOs, LSPs, and excavators, and all those that support them. So we are changing. And because we are changing and our mandate and our responsibilities are changing, we have to change the way that we recover costs. There was an organization in the past that you know well as Ontario One Call that was set up in more of a member-based approach, and that's changing. So we've got to reflect that change in our financial structure. And while that's not super fun and it's not the sexiest thing to talk about, it is something that we need to engage with our stakeholders on. And so that's the purpose of the discussion today. We hope at the end of this, we'll have some, hard questions, good questions that move us forward. But at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is deliver to you an organization that recognizes your needs, but supports you in your work. And to do that well in 2025 and going forward, we have to invest in technology. We have to invest in the right people, the right structures, the right processes, so that we're actually helping you move as fast as we possibly can. The issue that we've got today is that we have a legacy model for funding our operations that is backwards looking. So it looks at the number of notifications issued last year based on locate requests, and it attributes those costs to all those UIOs who use the system. There are some folks who are UIOs that are registered with Ontario One Call who pay nothing today. In fact, somewhere around 400 UIOs that don't pay into the system. That's an issue that we need to resolve, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But the purpose of this consultation and the purpose of Ontario One Call is to be ready to do the work that you want us to do when contractors want to dig. And so we need to be set up to do that. We need to invest in the right systems and structures, as I said. We need to be ready, at the ready, 24/7. And because that's the case, we need to invest in the organization on a go-forward basis. We believe, and this is always a point of debate perhaps, but we believe that the sector in its entirety receives certain benefits for this little organization that exists to serve you and now to regulate the sector. We think it goes across many sectors: safety, infrastructure protection, liability reduction, and there are certain efficiencies in the use of let's call it a one-click system. But we think that there are benefits for the work that we do. We're always open to your feedback. So if you think there are things that we should be doing better, certainly we're always working on timeliness, but we want to make sure that safety is paramount. But as I said, if you think that there are certain things that we could do better, please don't hesitate to reach out to us and talk to us about those things that you think we can be better at. Here's a certain perspective. Again, it's our perspective, right? And we recognize that you're taking time out of your day to hear our story, so we're going to tell the story the best way that we can. But if you look at locate timeliness and the performance of industry over the course of the last few years, you see dramatic improvement. And while some will argue, well, volumes are down, therefore, people were able to get locates done in a more timely fashion. It's true that volumes are down, but people, and I mean organizations, when I say people, have really invested the time to execute on this properly. And we as an organization have invested the time and resource to support the sector in that way. That could be from a compliance perspective and enforcement. It could be from the perspective of ensuring that we're doing a good job of promoting safe excavation and therefore folks are clicking before they dig, etc. But we're doing a lot of work from an operational effectiveness perspective, ensuring that your web portal experience is positive. And so we think that we're doing the work that we need to do to help you excel. And we've only been able to do that because of the fact that we've been able to invest in the systems and the people in the organization. And what you see on screen right now is some transparency in how we've dramatically changed the investment prospect of this organization. So in 2021, the budget of the organization was just under $10 million. The budget of the organization today is closer to $25 million. And we've invested a significant amount of that money in technology and trying to improve your experience. We've not left aside, if you will, the need for us to continue to inform the market, the sector, the public. So when I say that, I mean homeowners, of their need to click before they dig. And we don't want to relent on that. That's a really important part of our business. On top of the processes that allow you to submit locates and receive notifications, we have to make sure that people know what their responsibilities are under the Act. Here is just a graphical way for us to depict when things changed. So there was an organization set up, years ago in 1996 to deliver a certain service to the sector, and that was really that one call hub of activity. But in 2022, things changed. We became a public safety administrative authority of the province of Ontario under changes to the act that was instituted in 2012. And so we've become not just a service organization, but an organization that must enforce and seek compliance of the regulations and the act that underlines it. And so in 2022, we did go post 2022 and talk to government about the fact that we needed to invest in elements of the business. And for that reason, the government was willing to invest in the organization. And we think that that has paid off. We still have some work to do. The government's investment will go on into next year and then will lapse and that will end. And so at that point, we've got an organization that's delivering, we think, at a higher level, the better processes and better technology, but we have to continue to retain and maintain those new levels of your expectations. And so we're going to do that. And for that reason, we need to seek new fees to cover the cost of operating this little organization called Ontario One Call. So what are some of the improvements that you can expect going forward? We think that we need to continue to work hard at compliance and enforcement. There are new tools available to us. There's obviously technology that can assist us in that space. And we think that the sector desires our organization to be more present when it comes to enforcement and compliance. We've invested for the better part of the last couple of years on improving our digital capabilities as an organization. And in fact, of the $25 million that I've mentioned in terms of the investment from government, 18 million of that 25 has gone into our digital capabilities. About 6 of that has gone into our ability to promote safe excavation through education, awareness, and safety campaigns. So perhaps you've seen, and I hope you have, our billboards, etc., some at Union Station, some on the 400 series and 401, where we're trying to ensure that the sector and that homeowners understand their responsibility to click before they dig. The other thing that we think is very, very exciting, but also requires a significant investment, is the potentiality of a unified mapping strategy. And when I say unified, meaning digital mapping, we think it's part of the future. There's certainly great experiences in other parts of the world that show that this can really benefit the sector as a whole, move projects faster, make sure that people are digging safely, protect workers. And we see that as a big part of our future. We'll be talking about that some more at our conference and trade show at the end of October at Blue Mountain. For those of you who are on the call, I would be remiss not to mention that there is still opportunity for those who would like to join us to come to Blue Mountain between October 22nd and October 24th to talk some more about mapping and other things that relate to the business of One Call. So let me get into some of the actual changes that are being contemplated. You'll note that currently the way that the system is funded is through a locate notification system fee. That fee applies across all those users of our system, UIOs in this case. And what we are looking at, you'll recall that at our AGM in 2023, members approved a 20% increase year over year from 24 into 26. That 20% increase the last year of which is next year. So we are looking at either a 5 to 10% increase in each of 27 and 28. And that's a 5 to 10% increase over the current fees that your organization would pay. What we're also looking at is a new minimum fee for those organizations who are currently in our system, registered as underground infrastructure owners, but who currently pay nothing. And the fact of the matter is, you won't be surprised because you are all running organizations that have to be set up for various purposes. You won't be surprised to know that we have to invest time and energy and sometimes new technology to be able to accommodate some 1,000 or just short of 1,000 underground infrastructure owners in the province of Ontario. And for us to do that work, we need to be set up. And so we need to invest in the organization to do that, to invest, you need to recover the costs, et cetera. So I know I'm maybe overdoing this part of it, but I just wanted to be clear that there's a reason why we're coming to the market, we're coming to the sector to talk about new fees is because we have to be ready in the case of emergency, in the case of any proposal to dig around your infrastructure, we need to be ready. And so we intend to go forward with that, but we wanted to get some feedback from you on how to do this right. You'll note in the middle of the slide that we talk about dedicated locator fee. For those of you who enjoy the service today, most of the folks who are involved in projects on DL are paying $15,000 because the projects are complex enough. So we're going to stick with that $15,000 number on a go-forward basis. We will be rolling out new new services that will carry certain fees with them, and we'll give you more detail on that in the future. But that is not the purpose of the discussion today. More so to let you know that when we unveil or share with the market a new service, we'll make sure that is done at a cost recovery level. One of the things that we discussed, so some of you know we have a stakeholder advisory council. It's made up of UIOs, excavators, municipalities, etc. So we're very lucky to have a bunch of professionals who give us guidance on some of the execution of our strategic initiatives, one being the introduction of new fees. When we met with them to talk through our intentions, they said you may want to give some consideration to the stratification approach, either based on the size of municipalities, meaning not geographic size, but number of residents, or the number of employees for a small UIO, let's call it a farm or a solar establishment. So what we've tried to do here is show you that we're thinking that through, but we certainly would like to get some advice from you on what you think the right stratification might be, particularly as it relates to the minimum fee, because the minimum fee applies to all those folks who currently are not paying into the system or who on year over year, depending on the number of notifications, don't pay. And so you'll know that there is a past or a legacy decision of this organization, whereby if you received 500 or less notifications a year, you weren't counted in the system from a billing perspective. And so we are going to move past that with a decision to implement a basic minimum fee for everyone. And that therefore we will always be ready when somebody intends to dig in your jurisdiction around your infrastructure, we'll be ready to act. I don't want to spend too much time on this slide, but you can imagine as an organization, you've got just as all of your organizations have, you've got a business plan, you've got either a strategic plan or a business plan that carries you forward, and you find the resources that you need to execute on that plan. We've got a board approved and ministry reviewed strategic plan for the next number of years. It takes us to the end of 2027. We have a mandate as an organization. We have a memorandum of understanding that governs our relationship between ourselves and the ministry. And so there are certain expectations established in that strat plan, business plan, and our relationship with the ministry. And what we don't want to do is have this funding constraint affect our ability to deliver. And I'm not going to read the slide, but you can see that there's a whole bunch of elements of the promise that we made through a board approved plan to the sector that we're going to do certain things over the course of the next number of years. And what we need to do is to seek new fees to recover the cost of what we're trying to execute through, in this case, through UIOs, so that we can meet your expectations in the market. We do not want, as an organization, to pull back on the investments that we've made so far. We don't want to take our foot off the gas. I know it's a terrible analogy in some ways. It's not very safe, but we don't want to stop the progress that we've made, particularly in improving your experience, either digitally or in contacting us. We don't want to pull back on the way that we've been going to market, trying to encourage folks to understand their responsibilities and to click before they dig. We don't want to pull back on education and training efforts. We most certainly don't want to reduce our ability to ensure compliance with the act and the regulations. And that, because as you know, that takes not just technology, it takes people. And we really want to continue to invest in those fixes to either the web portal or to our processes and policies that make it easier for you to do the job that you want to do. Again, always with safety in mind. So with this all being said, and I hope in a moment to kind of drop these slides so that we can have a face-to-face chat. The consultations that we're doing will last until early October, so another week or so. We need to kind of formalize the feedback that we receive either online or through these discussions, and formalize that into a proposal for the ministry. That input will be looked at both by the board and the ministry between now and the winter. And then we will have some kind of announcement of fees made well in advance of any implementation. Currently, our implementation date is January 1, 2027. We recognize that people's budget cycles can be much longer, and so we'll take that into consideration when we have to go to market and help folks understand the changes that we're going to make. But we wanted to let you know that we intend to communicate both widely but also very early so that people can plan for this on a go-forward basis. I should say, and it feels weird to say it, but I'm going to say it. The responsibility to vote on fees is no longer part of our act. And so the board becomes the representative, if you will, of the sector in terms of the establishment of fees on a go-forward basis. So at the annual meeting that's going to be held in Blue Mountain in a few weeks' time, there's no vote on fees in that circumstance. That's now part of our act and part of our regulations. So just in terms of like, so if I didn't do a very good job of explaining certain things, I hope that these three takeaways kind of sit with you. We've as an organization, I showed you the budget slides, and I've showed you, or I've tried to express to you the work that we've done over the course of the last couple of years to try to improve performance overall. So we think that we've done a pretty good job, but you know, we can always be better of investing in technology, in making your portal experience or your experience engaging with us better. And we really do feel like we've taken big steps in terms of promoting, you know, safe excavation and click before you dig. And also we think that we're doing a stronger job in terms of enforcement and compliance. But we're doing all these things with the perspective that we can recover the cost of it on an ongoing basis. And we're not there yet. So we still have a gap, and our intention is to solve that gap, not on your backs, but more so because you have an expectation of our service offering and the things that we do to support you in your work and to ensure that we work with you to protect your infrastructure in terms of a UIO, but in the case of excavators, that we help them execute on the projects that are so critical to the future of this province. You know, we see ourselves sometimes, and maybe we're flattering ourselves, I'm not sure, but we do see ourselves at the epicenter of the biggest or a very ambitious build agenda in the province of Ontario. And we want to make sure that we're there for folks when they need us. And for that reason, we need to invest in the organization. We will always be open to your feedback. We're always open to trying to become better at what we do and play the role that you would like us to play. We have certain responsibilities, as I said, under the Act and regulations and under the MOU that we sign between the organization and the ministry. But we care about the work that we do, and we hope that we can have a conversation now that points to some of the ways that we can execute on this so that we can move forward and do a good job of promoting public safety and safe excavation and timely digging in the province of Ontario.
Thank you, Jean. We're going to start taking questions in just a minute. I just want to bring up on screen Anthony Martinello, our Chief Financial Officer, and Samantha Pinto, our Chief Regulatory Officer. Okay. Welcome, Anthony and Samantha. Just want to remind everybody that we are recording this webinar. We're going to post this on our YouTube channel, and you can use the Q&A function to ask your question. And I'm going to pass this to Christian and Sarah for questions.
Can you hear me, Jean? Yeah. We have one question here. Are all cost recovery models made internally by Ontario One Call, or would it be taken to a consultation outside of Ontario One Call? For example, an RFQ with external experts.
Let me take a crack at this because I'm not sure I fully understand, but I'll say this. Before we came to the sector on these consultations, we worked with an independent third party on all of our cost recovery initiatives inside the organization. So we worked, and I'm not afraid to say it, with an organization called Deloitte, well-known, expert advisors, to go through all of the elements of our business that we believe needs to be cost recovered. And when I say elements of our business, I mean the service offering of the organization. So we pressure tested these elements. So we've received third-party counsel on this set of ideas that you're seeing in front of you. The thing that I would say is it's not like our universe of service offerings is grandiose, right? We have a pretty basic offering of services in the market. And so we had to be very focused on kind of what you do today and what you expect to be doing over the course of the next number of years, and make sure that as you execute and as you support the sector, that you're recovering the cost of doing a good job at that. And so we have received outside counsel. We have received feedback from our board. We have received feedback from the ministry in terms of what we're presenting to you today. But our work isn't done. And one thing that we wanted to make sure we do well is engage with the sector to get their ideas, particularly as it relates to stratification. Because we have a certain perspective, not that everybody is equal, but the work that we need to do is the same to be ready for digging around your infrastructure, whether you're big or small. So we need to do that work. And the experience that we intend for stakeholders to have when they engage with us is exactly the same, whether you're big or small. So we've tried to construct this offering, if you will, and our responsibilities under the Act and our need to fulfill our mandate. We've tried to construct that with a kind of one perspective, but that we may not be correct in terms of the application of fees in that respect. So what we're trying to do is have a conversation with the sector about, what's the best way forward here? Because I think we will all agree that this is a necessary offering or a necessary of organization, if you will, in the safety realm. But it's like, how do we make sure that it's paid for adequately, and how do we make sure that it has the resources that it needs to execute on the mandate? So I invite Anthony if there's something more you'd like to add.
No, Jean, you said everything well. I'll just add one thing is, we're still currently rolling out the transformation for One Call. And I think, once we're at a position where we're a little bit more mature, it's logical that we would conduct another cost recovery assessment to make sure that everything is where we think it was or where it is. And so that's pretty normal in terms of a financial governance framework. And so while there's nothing on the books right now, something in, you know, 2 years time, 3 years time, we'll make sure that we take a look at our cost recovery model to make sure we're aligned. So thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. Christian?
Hi, Sean. Yeah, we've got another question here just to clarify whether there are any exceptions to these new fee proposals, such as public entities like municipalities or school boards, for example.
I'll attempt to answer that. I mean, today municipalities are covered under the Act. Any organization that owns infrastructure underground is an underground infrastructure owner, and therefore we don't intend to have exceptions to that rule. Like, that is the rule. That's why the organization exists. And the goal, as I said before, the goal of the organization is to be able to provide locate notifications to that infrastructure owner when somebody intends to dig around their infrastructure. So whether you're a hospital, a farm, whatever you may be, if you have infrastructure underground and somebody wants to dig around it, we need to be ready to execute on a locate request and therefore notifications to the underground infrastructure owner. That's out of safety concern, that's out of protection of your infrastructure, but it's also the right thing to do in terms of building out this province, right? So I've not met anybody in the last number of years who doesn't see Ontario as an engine of the country and also in need of further transformation or investment in terms of its infrastructure. So we know that stuff is going to continue to occur. There are big commitments made from all levels of government to invest in infrastructure development in the province and across the country. And so we need to be ready. And the same is true in any other province. But we need to be ready to do the work that we do. And to do that, we need to recover the cost of that state of readiness. Sam, is there something you'd like to add?
No, nothing further. Thanks, though, Sean.
Another question, John. Based on your presentation, your cost increases appear enormous. What steps are you taking to control your costs to mitigate cost recovery?
Well, first off, we are constantly looking at our organization to reduce costs in one area so that we can invest in another. We're constantly doing that. We've taken measures even in last year to try to reduce the size of certain parts of the organization to invest in others. So we're never going to stop doing that. Just like you don't do it in your businesses, meaning you do that in your businesses, right? You are always looking at where should my resources be to execute on the plan of the organization or my mandate, et cetera. We're always doing that. We're not going to relent on that cost focus. But in the case of this organization, we needed to build it to be able to deliver. We needed to build it because the Act and the regulations changed. We have new responsibilities as an organization. And frankly, in some parts of the organization, we were just doing bare minimum work. And we needed to invest in the organization so that we could all be proud of it as employees, but also as sector participants, so that you felt like, oh, these guys get it, they're doing the right amount of work. This is not I would say this is not a luxury organization. We are investing in the right things, investing in the right technology. We do so with very modern procurement approaches. You know, we get quotes on everything that we do. We are very focused on trying to find the best deals that we can. We are very mindful of the fact that this is the sector's money, that we are investing in this little organization to deliver on the mandate. So I think we take this very seriously, and it's true that fees have gone up over the last number of years. That's true, and in some cases it feels rather large. But the fact is that the organization was not sustainable in its current fashion, and we've turned that around, and we need to continue to build it. Sam?
Thanks, Sean. I do also want to add the progress that we've made over the past few years. So you'll recall in 2022, locate performance was significantly down. I think we were at around 30%. And the sector was asking One Call to be more active in the construction and excavation activities that were taking place in the province. So we've really invested in our organization to meet the needs of our industry and of stakeholders. So over the years, yes, costs have risen, but so have the performance, so have the improvements, and so have the services that we are providing in response to what people were asking us to deliver. So there is that expectation that we've been trying to deliver against, and we hope to continue to be able to build on that momentum in the future and continue to deliver in the way that you expect us to and in the way that government partners expect us to as well.
Thank you, Sam. We're going to move on to another question here. Up until now, most costs for utility safety has been borne by the industry. When will industries like excavators start contributing to the cost of these systems?
You know what? It's a very fair question. It's not a question that we haven't explored. There's definitely I'll say this, our organization believes that the sector includes excavators when it comes to the work of Ontario One Call. We're not yet at a point where we've got a proposal that we can share with the sector, but we are working on that. We do believe that that is the kind of the right step forward. We're just not there yet in terms of our ability to consult with the sector on this, but we do believe that it is a natural kind of progression for the organization and for the sector. Sam, would you like to add something?
No, I think you did a really good job of reflecting where we are currently. It is something that we are aware of. We're not immune to the fact that there is a service that we provide to excavators, and they currently aren't in our cost recovery model, and we're actively looking at that. The principle of fairness is something our CFO reminds us of constantly, and so we are taking that seriously and assessing how to bring excavators into the fold and at the right time.
Another question, Sean. This one notes that the telecommunications industry costs have increased 9.5 times. Costs from Ontario One Call, I should note. And governments are pressuring us to reduce prices to consumers. How do you see these two opposite trends being resolved?
I mean, the economics of the telecommunications sector and the economics of Ontario One Call are not comparable. So I don't disagree that, there are certain needs in one part of the, in one part of the economy, and then you've got this little public safety administrative authority that's trying to deliver a service to the sector. I don't think they're comparable, but we get it. We understand the economy is not in the best shape it's ever been, and so our timing is not fantastic. But we and I don't say that flippantly. I just mean, like, there's never a good time to talk about fees. There never will be for any organization. It's just that we're at that point where we've had some success investing in the development and the transformation of this organization, and we're just not there yet. And so it would be, I think, in some ways, not a very good management practice to decide that we're just not going to invest for a few years. We need to recover the cost of the investments that we need to make to achieve the expectations of the sector. Like, we're not doing anything that's outside of the expectations of the sector or our mandate. And because we're just kind of trying to meet your expectations in terms of the delivery of services, we need to recover the cost of that execution. And as I said earlier, we're really careful about how we spend and invest your dollars and taxpayers' dollars, because the government has stepped up. but I don't think the economics are the same. The size of the market for telecommunications is much different than ours. Ours is it's a mandated service. It's not like a choice, right? You can move from various telecommunications providers in some jurisdictions where you've got more than one choice. In our case, this is a little service offering that needs to be done because we prioritize safety. We prioritize and ensure that before you dig that there may be something underground. We want to make sure that no worker is injured, and we want to make sure that we protect the infrastructure that is so critical to the future of the province. Anthony, anything you want to add on the economics?
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure if I heard it right, but I heard an increase of 9.5 times. I'm not familiar with that specific number. I do know that we've raised our fees in accordance with what was approved back in 2023, which was 20%, 20%, 20%. I will say this, that you mentioned it right at the beginning, Jean. Our budgeting process is very rigorous. It's comprehensive. It goes through the board, and the board has a cross section of industry players on the board who conduct their due diligence and governance. And then it goes on to the ministry for another set of due diligence and governance. And it's never easy to increase your costs and then to have that translate into slightly higher fees. But we are one of the core pillars that we have here is, we mentioned about fairness, but we want to make sure that we're adding value. And we always assess our budgets and our costs with respect to adding value to the industry. So that's what I'll just land. Thank you.
A question that, Anthony, I think you'll be able to lead, if not assist in. I understand that addressing cost recovery is an issue, but has there been consideration as to how your projected cost increases will be over the next 5 years? Just wondering if there is a way to average the increase over a longer time period versus maybe a large one in 2027. Then they are less in subsequent years or similar. Have you completed that exercise for fees beyond 1 or 2 year budget period?
So yeah, we do have a process where we do 3 to 5 year budgets. So we have presented on quite a few occasions in this past year 5-year forecasts for our board. So that is something that we do. With respect to, I think what may answer the question is that there is a gap between, even though we've gotten the increases over the last 3 years, our sort of annual budget is hovering around 25 million, but there's still quite a large gap between where we are and to get to the 25 million. And, smoothing that out, even if I do it over 2 or 3 years, it's still going to be a gap. So we're not actually raising fees to cover that entire gap in the first year. I don't know if I'm making myself clear. So we are kind of doing sort of a glide path is what we're saying, is what I'm saying. So hopefully that answers the question.
Maybe I can add, just for what it's worth. We are currently advancing our business plan, advancing the work of the board in terms of strategic plan into next year with less anticipated revenue than we forecasted. And so for that reason, to the earlier question, which is a very good question, around like, hey, are you guys managing your money right? So we've had to make some tough decisions for the budget for 2026, where we have to do things a bit differently in 2026 because the revenue that we are hopefully going to achieve in terms of cost recovery won't occur until 2027. So we've had to make some hard decisions as we plan for our budget for 2026. So I just wanted to clarify that, while we are currently expending about 25 million, that's not what our budget's going to look like next year. It'll be lower, and we are doing that by finding the savings that are available to us inside the system, and hopefully continuing to deliver a service that you appreciate, and that keeps workers and keeps the industry safe.
Thank you, Jean. Another question here. As these fees are passed along to underground infrastructure owners, we then pass them along to fees through the public, via user fees or taxes. And adding those costs to the locate service can be to the tune of tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. Have there been any considerations to changing the current messaging to the public that this is a, quote, free service?
The freeness of our service is it is free to request a locate. But I don't think there's anyone in this province that thinks that things are free, right? It's what we try to encourage is that there's no barrier to an individual or a contractor to request a locate online. And that was very important for the organization and very important for the government to say there's no barrier for you to do the right thing, which is to request a locate before you dig. But there's nobody I've met that thinks anything is free in this world. So we perhaps will take this good guidance and this communications advice that we need to do a better job of explaining to folks that nothing is free, that what is being promoted and hopefully secured is that the action of seeking a locate is, and that has no cost to it. But and everybody here who's an underground infrastructure owner who has either an agreement with a locate service provider or works with other contractors, that there's costs involved throughout project life cycles or through excavation activities. There's always a cost. It's just that the organization and the government has wanted to compel folks to do the right thing, which is to click before you dig. So yes, that part of it is free.
Thank you. Could you clarify a little bit more for the audience about how we're obtaining their feedback for this and what the stratification models we might be considering as part of this process? There's some questions about the clarity around that.
Go ahead, Sam.
Oh, sure. So right now, if you go on our website, there is a consultation webpage that outlines the proposals of what we shared today, and we welcome your feedback through that channel. Feedback is accepted until October the 10th, I believe, and or you can, if for those. We have a really strong relationship with the sector. If you feel more comfortable reaching out to any one of us and sharing your feedback, we're happy to receive it that way as well. If you have ideas on stratifications and tiering and kind of models that you have seen work well within your sector or in other jurisdictions, we're happy to receive those as well. And we'll take that back. We'll consider all feedback received. At the end of the consultation period, once we're done our assessment and done our review, we will also post a response to what we heard during consultations, just so that there's a really open and transparent line of communication, so you can see what we heard. And then we will finalize our recommendations and take that forward for approval to our board. And we'll also share it with our ministry partners and colleagues as well. One of the things that I think Sean mentioned in his presentation, we want to provide lots of runway for any changes of fees and implementation. So depending on where we land, we do intend to come back to you and share the results of what approvals we received and the timelines for any fee increases, and we'll work with you on that transition. I hope that answers the question, Sarah. Thank you.
Jean, there's a question here about the transfer payment asking, it says, In the presentation, there was reference to government transfer payments. What did this money go to, and why is there a need for a fee if there are transfer payments?
Yeah, it's a very fair question. So let me try to. I will invite my colleagues to make my answer better. But in 2022, the board of Ontario One Call recognized that the organization needed further investment. They did hire a third-party independent consultant to kind of look at the business and then look at comparators and make recommendations on areas of investment required in the business on a go-forward basis to meet expectations of the sector, but also to meet a changing role. And the recommendations that were made at the time was to invest in all parts of the business. It just was just a business that wasn't as strong as it needed to be to meet the expectations of the future. And that relates to IT infrastructure and cybersecurity. That relates to our ability to enforce and work on compliance matters with the sector. It related to the fact that we weren't doing a very good job of promoting safe excavation through awareness campaigns. It meant that the infrastructure supporting the business wasn't really there. The foundations of a strong organization weren't there, and we needed to invest in it. And so we did take that report to government, who has an interest in ensuring that this public safety administrative authority that you know as Ontario One Call does a great job and is sustainable over time. And it decided that it was time for them to invest in taking us to the next level and assisting us with a strat plan and assisting us with the need to invest in delivering a service that this sector deserves. And, we are looking at, as you are, we're looking at all the announcements of governments and businesses who intend to build further in the province of Ontario. We need to be, as you would expect, in really good shape to be able to deliver on that when the volume starts going big again. So the volume has been pretty flat, we would say, for the last couple of years, but everybody fully expects, or I should say, analysts and others fully expect the sector to take off again. And we want to be sure to be ready for that. Go ahead, Sam.
Thanks, Sean. One really important clarification I wanted to make on the TPA and government investments. Those investments were not used for staffing. So they didn't go towards employees or kind of employee salaries or things of that nature. So I just want to remove any sort of misconception that investments from government were being used, to quote unquote build up One Call's empire. That was not the case. It certainly was to build the foundations. John mentioned that there were certain parts of our organization that were historically underfunded. And so the funds were used to bring those areas within the organization up to baseline so that we could provide the services that you're receiving. Thank you, Sean.
Okay, thank you. I think that concludes the questions that we've received today. Just to clarify, if any questions were submitted that were ultra specific or unrelated to this topic, please expect a response from the Ontario One Call team applicable to those later on. And I'll pass it back to you, Sean, to wrap up.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks to my colleagues, Anthony and Sam, for participating in the questions. Thank you to everyone who made the time today to join us for this quick little call. We know that this is not the funnest conversation. It's not super fun for us either, but it is important for us to communicate with the sector, help you understand where we intend to go with this organization, how we're trying to meet your expectations, and just the pure cost recovery nature of the service that we offer the sector. We are wide open for feedback. We intend to do as good a job as we can, listening and learning, and then developing proposals that fit the sector's expectations. We encourage anyone who has further questions to come and join us at the conference and trade show in Blue Mountain. I know this sounds a little bit like a little commercial at the end of this documentary, but really that's we hope that we continue to benefit from the strong relationships that we're trying to build with the sector as an organization. We value your feedback, and we value our ability to learn and our ability to continue to grow. But we certainly expect to use all the fees that we recover for the betterment of the sector and just in the provision of services that keep people safe and keep infrastructure safe. So we thank you for the time that you've given us today. And as I said, please reach out to us through the website or otherwise if you've got some additional feedback. Thank you.
Thank you.